I'm gonna go get your charger. It's in the basement. So.
Figure out what the problem was.
Oh.
It'll be okay there if you need my charger.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be going in and going out, though. Shit, stream health.
Hello, my friends. Testing. Can you hear me? I know we have a very poor connection. I hope you guys could hear me. Awesome. Thank you. I am early, but I've been trying to get this thing going for the last 20 minutes, just to let you guys know. I know the video output is low. We're up in the mountains, surrounded by mountains, and so the internet is not quite so good. We're staying at Evolutionary Energy Arts Family place. Some subscribers that were kind enough to let us stay here and have quickly become really, really good friends. Absolutely love these people. And getting used to the area up here in the mountains. And hoping to make sure that we have a house here very shortly, a place to stay. And then basically I'm just going to shoot back to Florida to do nothing but pack quickly and come straight back up. I can't believe how bad the air is down there, because now after being up here for about 4 or 5 days, my lungs feel so clear. My sinuses are so clear that it makes me realize just how bad it was down there. It was really bad down there. And honestly, we don't even want to really go back to pack and get everything. Kind of wish I had everything with me now. It just feels so crisp and clear and cleaner. You know, where we are here right now is only about 12 miles away from where we're looking to be. And it's night and day with the energy. I think there's a lot going on with the 5G and just, you know, when you have so many electronic things around you, I don't think we really realize how much they're affecting us all the time. Hello, brother. Hello, everybody, brothers and sisters. I mean, I adore Florida. I loved Florida. But now that I'm here, it really feels like it's so much healthier here. And I do think it's Agenda 21. I think they're trying to push us away from certain areas, trying to get us off the coasts. And, you know, everybody, brothers and sisters that are in Florida, it really feels like it's time to get away. I know everybody has said red tide happens every year, but this year the red tide is so much more severe than anything we've ever experienced before. Yes, the mountain air is just so much clearer and cleaner. I think where you are, Miss Dragon, with the grand solar minimum, you're going to be warmer than many other places. The only thing I worry about would be the volcanoes like Rainier, Mount St. Helens. Exactly, Cindy. Exactly. You know, it's the EMF. When you get out of it, then you realize how much it really affects things. Exactly. Well, it's going to be very cold in Michigan for sure. All those northern tier states are going to be super cold, and the people that we're staying with here are very, very knowledgeable about everything going on. And like they said, they feel like right here is about as high as they would go. And so, you know, here we're talking the southern Appalachians, and basically we're right in between the border of Tennessee and North Carolina. It's a blessing to be in the country away from all the EMF. That is for sure. You should have seen Zeke's face when we walked and looked at the place that we're looking at, because the neighbors are cows and the cows come right up to the property. He didn't know what to make of the cows. It was hilarious watching Zeke with the cows. And then we have horses for neighbors too. Yeah, it's totally different. You can't see the place from the road at all. There are bears up the street. I haven't seen any yet, but I hear that they're all over the area. I guess I'll take bears over gators any day. At least they're kind of furry and cute. Uh-oh, somebody OCD with wanting to close the tabs. All right, I'll close out a couple for you. Oops, close out the live. Don't want to do that. Hello, Brother Mark. We will be opening up the lines shortly. Going to have to sign on to the radio side of this on Freedom Slips Revolution Radio in a second. I will be officially going live and start taking calls at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hello, Mona777 Lisa. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope everything is well with you, sister. A week from today, Susie, September 11th. The famous Illuminati holiday. Namaste, Miss Dragon. Thank you so much for your support. It is greatly appreciated, my sister. It's definitely been tough times with YouTube and how they play their number games. Oh, thank you too, sister. Sassy Susie, much love. It's very much appreciated. You ladies are wonderful. What do you ladies want to talk about tonight? We are going to have an open forum, and I'm going to actually sign in right now to Skype and call into the radio show. Let's try this again. Let me bring it up over here real quick. All right. All right, my friends. Thank you for joining me here at Evolutionary Energy Arts once again. What do you guys want to talk about today? There's a lot of things going on. The call-in number is 614-400-5835. Again, 614-400-5835. We could talk about anything earth changes, anything conspiracy, anything to do with basically survival in these times. anything to do with homesteading, anything to do with prepping, anything to do with diet, nutrition, even intermittent fasting, things along those lines, energy, consciousness, anything along those lines at all, UFOs. Of course, we could talk about what's going on in the grand scheme of things with the powers that be, the government, the shadow government that really runs everything. And who is at the top of that totem pole? Is it interdimensional demons? Is it extraterrestrials? Is it just human survivors of past civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria? Who really is at the top of the totem pole? What really is going on? So we are live, guys. What is going on in your lives? What's happening in your neck of the woods? What have you seen earth changes wise? What have you experienced? You guys know where I have been and how things are different in my life if you've been following the channel. And right away, a huge difference in the way I feel, getting away from the red tide and getting away from all the electromagnetism going on down there. People are talking about UFOs in their pics, and actually our host here has some amazing pictures of orbs and other things as well, as they see things in these mountains on a regular basis that just defy explanation by conventional means. And we do have our first caller calling in. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. You're on the air. And who do we have with us?
This is Tom.
Hey, Tom. How you doing tonight?
Tom in Colorado.
Hey, my friend.
Problem is off my volume here. What I'd like to talk about tonight is preparedness. It seems like they got a plan, but it isn't much of a plan. And what I'm talking about is I talked a little bit last week that I was a volunteer fireman for 11 years. And you kind of need to make plans, like if you're going into like a fire season or something. So you get your team ready, get your trucks ready to go. You work good as a team. And I'm getting the feeling that the people on the West Coast, and you were saying that a lot of people are getting feelings about that, but I'm talking up by the Wanda Fuka, where that point is where I keep getting, and then through Oregon, which if you watch Dutch Sense, they don't report any earthquakes out of there, which is pretty weird.
Yeah, it is really weird. Did you see the one today I was talking about? Because I had a listener say to me, "Hey, it's 6.8 up in Kashmir," and I was like, "Really?" And I go to research it.
I did, and here's the weird thing, man. If we're going to be left here on the surface to fend for ourselves and stuff, we need that basic information of these earthquakes. And Dutch Sense needs them because he can be the hero of this whole thing. I mean, he could help save people's lives. He is the real deal. He's trying to do it, but if you watch some of his forecasts, like they don't report China, and so that's wrong.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they cover up so much and they downgrade and they change everything and hide information.
And that makes it hard for him to forecast. Imagine how good he could forecast if he had that information plus whatever they decide to either hide or downgrade or whatever. It doesn't make sense, man. We need that information. Okay, like let's say on the West Coast, and let's say Hawaii did something and it created a tsunami, right? We have a couple of hours. I'm just thinking outside the box here because I don't like the way they're thinking about it. But we have a couple hours where we could direct people up to high ground and maybe save millions of people. In other words, if you had that information, but they can't keep hiding stuff from us because it's you need that information.
Right.
But I mean, look at if you could get people driving, like let's say out of Seattle going to high ground or something, you could save millions of people if you organize them. Use our military stuff like our National Guard stuff. They got those big trucks and stuff where you could set up one-way streets out of there, up to high ground where you'd start practicing to move the people like if there was such a thing as a tsunami, and maybe we could save a lot of people.
That would be really good, but I think the bottom line is realizing that they ultimately don't seem to truly care about saving people or saving lives.
That's why I'm saying we're when I first started listening to you, you were getting people together, to start. We just gotta ignore them because they got their plan, and just start making our own plan. Exactly.
Yeah, we need to organize. For one.
Because if we're waiting on them to do their plan is to do no plan.
Exactly. No,
and so I think it would be better, like if we could, just start getting people active. And if you have town hall meetings or something now that these elections are coming up, ask about the chemtrails, ask if they support the chemtrails, ask how much of that stuff they're spraying on us, and see if they try to dodge it or whatever. But this also, we know that Earth changes are they're very dramatic. Like the news that you're reporting is like the floods and all that. We need to have people starting to make plans for these big catastrophes.
Right. Yeah, we do.
Like in my area, fires in southern Colorado, fires and other things too. We could have earthquakes. We could have fallout from Yellowstone. Nobody's going to be safe during these times. I'm glad you moved out of Florida. And by the way, I like that little dog Zeke.
Yeah, Zeke's something else. He's a great boy. He's so good, so well behaved.
How much does that dog weigh about?
He's about 60 pounds.
Okay, he's bigger than what I thought. But he seemed like a real cool dog. I like animals.
Yeah, he's so sweet. He just follows me everywhere. But
and on your feet, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. Everywhere I go.
With people.
Yep. Well,
How is he with other people?
Oh, he's real good with other people. He loves people. He loves animals as long as other animals aren't aggressive towards him. If they show aggression, he would show aggression back. But he's not aggressive naturally, though.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you got a good one.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So I wanted to hit on that, and it seems like we got to make our own plans. Like when I first started listening to you, were getting people together, and maybe like in this mindset, like, hey, let's make our own plan, like, and then maybe a town might get involved or something. We've got to start small or something, because it's not working the other way.
Exactly.
It was something like National Prep Awareness or something the other day. It's like, well, what did they teach us? What are they talking about? And I asked my sister. She mentioned it to me, and I go, well, what did they tell you? And she said they told about having a go bag, which is a bug out bag.
Right.
She knows I'm a prepper and I'm a fireman. I got all that stuff down. But she said she was real proud. They call it a go bag. Have one of those ready. But besides that, these are big disasters. We need big plans, we need the machinery and equipment that we've paid billions of bucks for to be on the ready, like our those big 6x6 trucks and stuff. Remember down in Houston, they were going into nursing homes with those big trucks and pulling out all those old folks and getting them out of there, which was cool. And that's what I think that we got to start, thinking about, and maybe putting pressure on the politicians that way. And we have a chance to vote people out that aren't thinking about us as people.
Right. Yeah, it's up to us. It's up to all of us to pull together, each one of us. And, the thing I find is that, there are so many amazing people out here. It makes me think that the ones that are really controlling everything and doing this, it's like, I have to question if they're really, really human to really do such
I've been
things.
thinking the same thing. It's like they don't seem to care about humans. I mean, we got some mean people, but we at least care about ourselves.
Right.
And our planet. Another reason why I don't think they're human is because they don't care about our planet.
No.
They don't care about the pollution. They don't care about the water. Every regulation is just thrown away. It's like, well, that might not be a very good idea when you go to fish and the fish come out and they got like 3 eyes or something like that.
Exactly. So I mean, what do we learn from them? I mean, when you think about it, if they don't care about humans, they really don't care about the planet. What does that tell us about them? I mean, if they are going to have to live on this planet too, and that question's come up too, because they must be spraying their loved ones with the same stuff they're spraying us with. So what does that tell us about them?
It just shows that they don't care. They're like don't have feelings, and I think that's what makes us special as human beings. We have feelings, and we can develop them spiritually, and I don't think they can.
Right.
I think most humans don't realize that they can do it, but I've talked to you a couple of times how I've gone into what I call the for the next dimension up, and I don't think that they have or they can develop feelings or compassion.
What?
If they did, they wouldn't be doing all this shit. This is just ridiculous stuff that we're accepting happening to us, and it's like, how do you fight it or whatever?
Right. Do you remember that call into Art Bell, that famous call into Art Bell? I remember it happening live, where the caller was calling in on the Area 51 hotline, and then he's nervous as can be, and
yeah, I do know which one you're talking about. He's trying to get it out, but he's being chased, right?
Exactly. So
yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
So what he said is these beings, they're not extraterrestrials like we think. They're interdimensionals. So if it's the interdimensionals really controlling things where they're not really of this realm, they really don't care about this realm. They just are using us as a food source energetically, creating negative energy, hatred, and somehow that feeds them. They leech off of that. They suck that negative energy, and that is their food source. But they ultimately don't care about us at all, or even the planet, because it's not really where they're from. So that idea does make more and more sense to me all the time, that these beings are not necessarily human and not necessarily even 3D beings, but perhaps they are really interdimensionals that are basically in some ways perhaps possessing or overshadowing humans of certain blood lineages and using those humans as nothing but pawns in their game.
And and how how do you think would be the best way to counter that?
Well, really, by ascending past where they are, which I think is part of what's going on with the planet. Consciousness is rising, and so we are going to, if we rise in consciousness past where they are, like say if they're actually in the lower fourth dimension, the lower astral realms, which according to many Buddhist sources as well as other sources where they've gone and done a lot of meditation and a lot of remote viewing and have seen that the lower astral realms, the lower fourth dimension, is full of all sorts of negative entities. And if we are going to ascend past 4D into 5D, we'll be above them. So we'll be of no use to them anymore. They won't be able to control us anymore. So they might as well kill us, or they might as well have us kill each other in a huge, destruction. And at least that way we feed them, doing that destruction, killing each other.
Negative energy is what they're sucking in.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me, the most logical conclusion. And it might sound crazy, but
no, it doesn't sound crazy to me at all, because I go into that 4D all the time, and but I'm going through with the Holy Spirit. That's how I ask to go in. Once I start at the ground, go up through my body and out my pineal gland, I then try to meet the Holy Spirit, and then He'll take me in to that dimension. And the ones that I'm with, if I go that way, are always positive, beautiful, caring people or entities that are caring and loving. But I think you can go either direction. If you're praying for the other way, which I will never do because I'm scared of that way, it could take you a different direction where a couple of times when I didn't do my routine and just went in, there were creepy visions.
Oh yeah, for sure. And not all interdimensional beings are negative, for sure. One of our viewers in the chat room was bringing that up, and I bring it up to say that I've seen in some circles people say some of the ascended masters are nothing but draconian, Draco and reptilians pretending to be good guys, but I've felt the energy of some of the ascended masters, and to me, it feels really positive. And I think as we develop, we can discern pretty quickly when something's negative or something's positive. And I know there's some biblical scriptures that people always quote, saying, "Oh, remember, Satan could come as an angel of light." But I think that it's up to each to discern that. And I think that we've been purposely made afraid of actually a lot of beings that are really, really good and helpful and want to help us.
And once again, they feed off that we're not going there, and we're not helping ourselves by going to the good ones, because they want to help us. They love and they care for us. And the ones that I go see, they think if you're totally human, they think we are a very unique, beautiful people, or we're almost there. We got to get through this test, and then it's very important, because they say like you only use like 10% of your brain. At least that's what a lot of people tell me. But imagine giving like somebody that's really evil like 100% of their brain. And I think this test is kind of weeding that out before we get our true power of what we can be spiritually. And if you're lucky and you can go in and hang out with them, the good ones, it's just love and peace and caring, and it's really cool. I mean, and there's no lies there, so you don't, and you notice that right away, because we're getting fed a line of crap all the time.
We are.
I mean, we're being taught to accept the untruth, the lie, and it's really a bad place to be, because we got to question that. We can't, as human beings, we got to say, man, it's got to be better than this. You can't lie to us, and how can you make a plan with a liar, because you never know what they're actually thinking.
Right.
And that is, no person that I know would have that in their life. You know, somebody always, you know, manipulating the truth, lying to them or whatever. That is like really a nasty way of living. So you want to get away from it. And what right do they think they have to lie to us?
Exactly.
They don't have that right.
No, you know, we have to reclaim our own power and do it in a way that you're comfortable with, but understand that we need to reclaim our own power. And, you know, I've heard from so many different sources, and I do believe it's a free will universe. So somehow they have to trick us into giving up our power, and which they do.
They're doing it through manipulation of the racism. I'll give you like a just kind of a thing to think about, and listeners can go do this. Charlottesville. That's the interesting way that they started this whole weird, evil thing. If you go back to the video, they know the white supremacists are coming. They know the Klan is coming. They know the Nazis are coming. Then they got the group of people that are going to stand against them, I guess. But there's no police there. Go back in time with your computer, and that whole thing was weirdly set up. And that's my what do you call that, conspiracy theory.
Yep.
If you go back in time and just look, they know all that stuff weeks before it happens. You would think you'd have armies of police, right, dividing the two sides. And if you go back in time and look at that, they didn't have anybody really. There was no police presence, like a line of police with the shields and shit. They didn't have any of that. And go back in time, and that's my conspiracy theory as far as dividing the country with the racism, the Nazi. I mean, there's some pretty nasty stuff going on there. And there's no police presence. And so and then of course the political divide, almost everybody can see that now. But if our country does have a big disaster, look how hard it's going to be for us to get together with the way that they got us divided.
Yeah, no, that's all done on purpose, as we have been saying. It's so obviously it's done on purpose too. They just seem to love to hype it. And when you get out and you actually meet people, you know, you see that. I don't know about you guys, but I think most people at the core are pretty good. I think there's very few people that I would say are beyond hope, you know, to change.
But I think your mind has been manipulated by maybe these beings by, you know, if you belong to this political party, you're this. Or if you're against this, you're this left-wing nut job or some shit.
Yeah.
It's like gone so far weird. It's like, no, man, it's just I don't agree with what you're doing, you know, or whatever. It's not like I'm exercising my right to not agree with you. That doesn't mean I'm crazy or some shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need to, at some point, you know, we gotta get back together with us and not let this divide us anymore. But it's really hard to do because the way that they did it is very strong. It works on our emotions. It works on our prejudices, our whatever, you know, politically or whatever. And in the meantime, they're doing all this nasty stuff right in our face. It's unbelievable. So we got to kind of just wake up a little bit and just, if you get a town hall meeting, ask that guy, do you support chemtrails? Now I had Cory Gardner's our senator here. He called up, and their new town hall meeting is he calls you on the phone, says he's having a town hall meeting, and you listen to his rhetoric until it's done, and that's the new town hall meeting. In other words, you can't ask a question, and that is like not a town hall meeting. That is you spewing whatever you're talking about. I can't ask you about the chemtrails every day. I can't ask you. So he gave me a phone number to call. And I called him, and I have my pictures on my computer of the chemtrailing every day. And I called him, and no response. I called him about 5 or 6 times. The phone number he gave me, he called my house. And then at the end of the town meeting, he said, if you have any questions, call Cory Gardner at this number. And I did, and I never got a response. And my whole question was about the chemtrailing, because at that time, I mean, well, even today and recently, it's been pretty heavy. They got to stop this stuff. But I just want one of them to commit to, yeah, I believe in the chemtrail program, and that ain't happening. Have you ever heard of one United States senator saying he's behind the chemtrail program or even mention it?
No, and you know, I was just talking to a friend that has tried to be politically active, and she just was saying how it's ridiculous how on certain motions, you know, things that are important, they get put off until like the very, very end, and then people just get attacked, you know, and this is even at a small local level. When you're talking about things like, you know, like we're talking about, whether it's chemtrails, whether it's, you know, fluoridation of the local water, you know, all these things that we're seeing, they get attacked by an organized structure, you know, that's been put together, unfortunately, by the parties, you know, mostly the Democratic and the Republican, you know, based parties, and it's just to keep the corporate agenda rolling. You know, people don't even recognize that the United States is a corporation. It's been a corporation. You know, this is a corporate world. You know, the countries in so much, and really, in effect, they're just an illusion. It's really all a corporate world and a corporate structure. And you know, the United States is a corporate army of the cabal and the military-industrial complex. And you know, they nip it in the bud. Any sort of action that we try to do, even at smaller levels, they don't cover, you know, the protests, and they say, well, 100 people showed up when maybe 1,500 showed up. It's anything they could do to keep it down, and somehow.
Yeah, like the views on your show, I think, are higher than what they're saying, man.
Oh yeah, I could see.
That you're talking about yourself.
Oh yeah, well, you know, I could tell by the thumbs up in the comments, you know, and you know what happens is they try to buy people out, and this is something that, you know, is real. They really do try to buy people out by sending people in, and you know, some of our fellow YouTubers, I think, are compromised, and I was having a discussion with some friends with that as well, with some of the YouTube channels that we feel have kind of switched, you know, maybe have actually ended up selling out a little bit, because they really do come after you. And I've been approached 1, 2, 3, 4 times, you know, and I could tell, and they do it in different ways, you know, and if you start to engage them, you might not recognize that it's somebody, you know, you know, higher up, somebody with a political agenda at first. You might not recognize it. And then you might all of a sudden see your viewership as you're engaging with them is going up. Everything's going your way. They're no longer demonetizing your videos. And then, like, you know, for instance, I put out a video that really ticked off somebody who you guys all know. Everybody knows them out there. There's a couple of them that kind of work together. And they totally attacked me on it, wanted me to basically take it down or to retract what I was saying. And, you know, I said no and basically cut my cords with them. And then, basically my videos are getting a quarter of the views they were, and so I know what the game is and, how they play this game. And it's like, I don't want to say names out loud, but, I've left some hints for those that could follow. And actually one of the subscribers nailed it on the head. One of our regulars. And he said it in the chat room. He pegged it right out, saying he didn't trust these two sources. And it's because they're former military, and they're still tied to the military-industrial complex. And so, they try to reel us in, and they want us to have a spin. So, for instance, if I started telling you guys, Trump is awesome. I love Trump. He's a white hat. Everything is good. He's going to save the day. That's what they want. But I don't trust him, and I don't trust any of them. So I'm not going to do that because I just can't. But if I did, my views would go through the roof, and it would go to a completely new level. They want you to pick a side. Because as soon as you pick a side, you're completely in their control and in their matrix.
Right. And they have an answer. One way to answer them, which is very frustrating to them, is they go around in a roundabout way. And if you can set your mind and reverse think that way, and that's really hard to do with honest people and stuff, but you can still be honest and not give them that definite thing that they already got a bad answer for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes that might take some thought, like on your computer to answer somebody or something, is you put in code words into your response, and don't say the word that they want you to, so that they can get that combative thing going. Us against them, or whatever their plan is. It's as long as you can. That's what they want you to be in on. But if you can avoid that and still make your point, and it's hard to do because it's Mickey Mouse. But that's what I'm talking about. Like when you go to the 4D, you don't have to think like that. But in this dimension, you really do, especially in the times we are right now. And if you try that, sometimes it throws them way off. In other words, don't give them a person's name. You were doing good there. Don't say the person's name. Everybody knows who you're talking about when you're talking about a subject. You don't need to say the name to get it going, because then you can always say, how do you know that's what I was talking about? That's what I'm talking about as far as responding to those type of people. You don't want to give them those solid blocks that they've built up, and they know the pat answer to everything.
Right. Exactly. Well, thank you.
Michael, I'll get off here, man.
All right, Thomas.
Good talking to you. I hope your new life becomes a very nice one.
Thank you, brother. It's always a pleasure. Namaste, Tom.
Bye.
Bye. So that was Tom. So we do have a free lane right now. Just give a call in, and 614-400-5835. Yeah, it's pick a side. Now, whether you want to pick a liberal side or a conservative side, if you pick a side, it gets a lot easier for them to control you. Because when you step back and you realize, they're controlling both sides, so you choose not to pick a side, then you're not so easily controlled, and that's a little bit more dangerous. And that's what we all have to do, is basically step out of their control system, out of their matrix. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us now? Hello, you're on the air. Okay, well, they must have not thought they were going to get through. Is this my friend?
How's it going, dear brother? How's it going, Michael?
Going good. How are you, Nataya?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I just got back from doing some errands and getting back on track. Because I only go out to the city only once, believe it or not. Once a month. That's it. That's it.
That's good.
I stay away from those energy.
That's good. So are you able to get like fruits and veggies locally, or are you growing most of it yourself?
No, I haven't started growing it myself for some odd reason, Michael, believe it or not. Spirit has been telling me that I got to barely start doing it now in the sense that I have a feeling that I have a whole different theory, I should say, about what the pole shift that's happening. But anyhow, I'll explain that in a little bit. But what I mean by that is I have for some reason, say for instance, my pomegranates, there's different things that are barely fruiting now. They're barely fruiting now, and my feelings, my gut feelings are telling me for some reason the growing seasons are going to change, and that's going to be one of the main effects, the true effects of the pole shifts. That technically, you know, how they say the poles are going to lift. Well, technically, I don't feel that happening with the information that I've gotten through different sources, metaphysical, physical, and all in between. And for actually to give you guys a quick little insight on someone to look into that I've been looking into for many years, and this I knew before you heard, and it's not that I was first and all this, but before you heard Diamond of Oppenheimer Ranch, all these other people talking about this. Why? Because they knew about this all the time, but it's just barely started to get mainstream-wise, right? But I knew about this stuff about 5 years ago, and it was all thanks to a gentleman called, what's his name? Where'd it go? It's Maurice Cotterell. Let me spell that out. So Maurice is typically spelled Maurice, and the last name is Cotterell, Cotterell. Okay, and this is a gentleman that what do you call it? Confirmed for me the synchronicities that I was following upon about the studying the Mayan calendar, the Aztec calendar, and many other cultures that all correlated about what's happening with, in a sense, our galaxy, not our solar system, our galaxy. Our solar system is minuscule, it's a tiny little thing in the universe, you know. So about Maurice Cortell, what he did was he found, I mean, it's amazing the information he found through almost playing like a child with not the manuscripts, but the hieroglyphs and all that left behind by all these ancient cultures. And what he was doing is he was getting like the corner, like the left corner, upper right corner of like a depiction of a hieroglyph, whether it was Egyptian, Mayan, or whatever the case, and he would place it on the bottom right, but flip it and then polarize it. And then he would do all these things, and somehow, some way, and he didn't just do it just out of nowhere. Like he learned the Mayan language and all this stuff, and he was reading all this stuff, and he was like, man, this is weird how these corners are always cut off. And he found out that they were actually designed that way, and no one ever knew about this. And then he's like, no, what if I put these cut corners together? And when he did that, more images came out that were not just coincidental. They were literal perfect depictions of the real story, the subliminal, if you want to call it that. But it's a real story hidden in plain sight. So with this in mind, remember, the first time I called, if you guys don't remember, I specifically said my name is Hezaiah. That's my Mayan given name. So, you know, somehow, some way, I've always been connected with these people who claim to be Mayan, right? Since when I was young. And they always leave me with these profound riddles in a way. For instance, one of them was, si pasamos, no llegamos, si llegamos, no pasamos. Okay, and that was referencing to December 21st, 2012. And what that meant was, if we get there, we won't pass. And if we pass, we won't get there. And that came to me when I was about 15, 16 years old. And because I always had older friends, because I was very mature. I was, not to sound arrogant, but I was very, very advanced, and I always attract very mature people. And for some reason, I was a good listener, so people would spill the beans on me. And I'm like, wow, like, I didn't understand any of it, especially back then. But you know how the subconscious mind works. Everything was recorded. Everything was there. And every little once in a while, I was like, wait, where did I hear that before? And then I'll get into it. Like, all of a sudden, doors will open up inside my mind, and I'll go into portals, literally. And I know some of you listening know what I'm referring to. You know, through this, I found out that one gentleman, the very first one that came about, that just happened to mention that he is of my understanding. Yes, he speaks Spanish, and you can tell he was indigenous and this and that. He will only like talk with me, and that's what he left me with. But I figured it out that technically he was a shaman. He was already dead. He was multidimensionally just passing through, and he found my energy because I've been awake since I know some of you are gonna laugh your asses off when you hear this, but I've been awake since about 8 or 9 years old. How can I tell you this? You guys need to look up the Book of 5 Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. Just look up the Book of 5 Rings, you'll find it right away. Okay? I found that when I was 8 years old, and somehow, some way, I couldn't put it down. I didn't understand it, but I was just reading it. I would go play, I'll come back, read it even though I didn't understand it. Like, I don't understand why I can't put this down. And then I found Bruce Lee. And then I found Lou Ferrigno and all masters of transformation, physical transformation. Arnold Schwarzenegger was another one. How, through my dad, had all these autobiographies, all these books that I would just sneak into his library, and I would read these things, even though, and I started when I was 8 years old. 9 is when I started to really start to like dig in. I was a weird kid growing up, but anyhow. So with this in mind, it would always haunt me in a weird way because every single day since the age I was 16, it had crossed my mind. Like I was always trying to figure out what does that mean. If we get there, we won't pass, and if we pass, we won't get there. So that goes to show you, I finally figured this out not even 3 months ago, believe it or not. And I am shooting to hit 40 already. Okay, I'll tell you that much. Every single day that will cross my mind, and I will contemplate on it at least 45 minutes to an hour. And I couldn't figure it out, but while I was doing that, it was opening doors. It was opening on dimensions. And I was figuring things out. And I was referring to, obviously, third dimension, you know, gliding through fourth to those that choose to, that know how, that desire to, and shifting into fifth. So meaning, it doesn't, again, it's not many people don't understand this concept, but we never truly die. We never truly die. We are energy. And then with this in mind, that's the only way that statement makes sense. That if we get there, we won't pass. Meaning if we get to 2012 in December 21st, if we get there, we won't pass. And if we pass, we won't get there. And that's all he would tell me. He's like, hey, don't forget, Isaiah. If we get there, we won't pass. And if we pass, we won't get there. And I'll be like, why does he always close with that? Why does he always open with that? And he always closes with that? And why is it that every time I'm around this guy, a few times, he's never talking to anyone else? And somehow, somewhere, I always find him in the park, meditating in the dark as I was walking home. Which most people won't dare to walk home in the dark, in the night, in the places I grew up. But I was doing other kinds of training that spirit, my mind, my consciousness, my gut feeling was telling me to do. And yes, I would street fight a lot, an insane amount to stay away from gang members. But within all that, that's what kept me away from the programming, believe me or not. Because growing up as a kid, I couldn't stay in school, even though I loved school. I loved school, and I would always get picked on by these gang members. And I grew up around gang members, and I was like, no, everybody always ends up dead. They always end up in jail. No. And I remember telling myself, I'd rather die than to join a gang. And I would age. I mean, my dad put me in martial arts at 4 years old. Of course, you don't report nothing there. But then again, I was working through it, and then again, we went at it hardcore again at 9 years old. Just coincidentally, at 9 years old. Japanese martial arts. Okay, in case you guys don't know, look up Aikido. It's the most beautiful martial art, and it's all based on love. I know it sounds weird, but trust me, when you look at it, you blend with the enemy so you won't hurt them. And this is referring to enemies that are vicious enemies, and you still disarm them and then you put them down. You know, they capacitate them so that they don't go any further, and that's that. And that's, I mean, it's amazing. But anyway, so with that, Maurice Cotero, sorry about this. I keep going on a side tangent. Don't forget about Armageddon, people. The place where the last battle between good and evil will be fought. So anyways, Maurice Cotero found out that we have these cycles that all cultures and civilizations think about that go at about it's funny, everybody always has different numbers, but you guys can look it up. You guys will find that these numbers will correlate to a lot more things when you see these numbers. A lot of people think it was 3,800 years. Some people just say 3,600 years. Well, it's 3,600 years and 225. It's only about a year or so, give or take. But that's how accurate the Mayans were. Okay. But anyway, that's the accuracy. So if you count 3,620 where am I? Jeez, hold on. I'm thinking about the long year cycle, which is 36.
Right. Yeah, Nibiru was the 3,600 year thing, but supposedly. But
yeah, exactly. It's 3,600 is what they believe, but it's technically 3,627 years. That's the what is one zodiac sign. Okay, we just got done with the Piscean sign. We went into Aquarian sign. Now on the Aquarian sign, we're going to be on this for the next 3,600 and 20 some years. But then the long cycle, once all 12 cycles have gone through, is 26,225 or so. Okay, and that's the long cycle. So that's the one we're reaching now. We are the fifth. We are the fifth civilization that, in a sense, are going to go extinct. In a sense. But remember, we never truly die. If we get there, we won't pass. And if we pass, we won't get there. So in other words, we're still going to live somehow, some way, people. But remember, if you die with fear, you're not going to live without fear. Whether you survive through this shift or not, once you come back through, wherever it is that you decide to go through, it's going to be through the feelings. How do I know this? People have been there 6 different times in my lifetime. 2 of which were 1 month apart from each other. All right. Those of you who have an idea of explosions, I was in the military. I was in Iraq. I was blown up by a suicide vehicle-borne IED. So the guy, wanted to commit suicide full of explosives. 2 of them back to back. All right, 1 month apart from each other. Hit my vehicle, blew us up. Most of everybody was severely injured. No one died somehow. I was without a single scratch, but I was the light. I didn't go to a tunnel. I didn't see a light. No, I was the light. I was in the light. I was saying this some other time, how beautiful this was. I mean, you guys were falling in love. Not to sound arrogant or egotistical or anything. I'm not special. No, everybody can do this. If you guys have come close to dying, trust me, you died. You just shifted because you decided to shift. Whether even if you were suicidal, most people who are suicidal are just bluffing. Okay, anyways. And not only that, a third time, they try to get me the third time, less than a month from the second time. Okay, but they got the wrong vehicle. They got the vehicle in front of me. It still injured a lot of us. But somehow, some finally saved, okay, I saved my brother-in-arms who was sniped in the neck. He literally got shot in the neck. I was driving that day, and I, had this premonition, man, I need to move because we had to stop because we had to investigate some things. And I said, I was trying to tell my sergeant that we need to move, at least not sit still. And I was moving the car, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, Sergeant, I don't think we should stand still here. This is not a good idea. And he's like, damn it, stand still. I need to make a calculation real quick. And as soon as they stopped the vehicle, boom, we just heard a little pop. And then some gurgling, which was my friend who luckily was a big dude. Okay, so it shot him in the neck. And then all of a sudden I hear, my last name. I don't want to say my last name, but that's how military reference to, to go to the hospital. And I kid you not, on the way there, it was in midday, and just because we're in the war zone doesn't mean people don't have a life. There was still people packed everywhere buying the groceries and some that. They got used to it for so many years of doing that. Well, when we turned the corner on the main road that was still a long ways to go, I literally, that was the first time I snapped, okay? And this was towards the end. All the other times I couldn't snap. I somehow met a lot of beautiful Iraqi people. That they were beautiful. Like it was amazing the way they were. You can tell they were genuinely good people. But anyhow, when that happened, I know that my friend, my brother-in-arms, he had a family, and I said, I said to myself, I prayed out loud and everything. I said, God, I'm sorry, but if a woman or a child or anything crosses my path, I'm sorry, but I'm not stopping. Because if I were trying to swerve, it would have been worse. That's what I know. People would have ran out, just got shocked. Like, what? Why would you run over a woman and a child? Well, if I would try to deviate when I'm going at 65 miles an hour, I'm going to crash into so many more things because there were so many other things that I would have definitely killed so many more people riding in that big, huge tank-like vehicle. It's called the Striker. But anyways, somehow, some way, when I said that, if you guys don't understand what already happened at this point, that was unconditional love that I didn't even know I was doing. I just said, I'm sorry, but I'm thinking right now where if I try to swerve, I'm going to kill more people. So if someone crosses my path, I'm going to go straight through them. I'm sorry. I said that to God. I prayed that out loud. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, I had this tunnel vision, and I was going, and then last thing you know, I hear my name called out on the headset and said, hey, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because everyone else back there is way back there. They crash into so many things. I don't know how you're doing this. And I swear to you, I'll say it out loud. I literally seen, like, the best thing I can call is the sea parted, but there was no sea. There was a lot of people. There was it was basically a flea market. It was basically the farmer's market. Okay, and somehow, some way, I didn't hit a single vehicle. I didn't injure a single person. Not only that, once I'm waiting, hoping that my brother-in-arms survived, the doctor comes out, he's like, who's the driver? Who's driving? And I was like, it was me. I thought I was going to get in trouble because maybe I did run over people and this and that. And the doctor comes up, shakes my hand, he's like, soldier, man, what you need to do is teach people what you did, because if he would have got here, I can't even say, not even 10 seconds later, there's no way he would have made it. And to this day, he's alive.
Well, that's great. I mean, sometimes things go slow-mo and it seems so unreal, and then sometimes things can move so fast when we're in those situations. And actually, the lady that I'm staying at her place right now, she's another one, and I think she's going to let me interview her because I really want to interview her with you guys, because she's clinically been dead twice, documented, and had a third time that she knows she did definitely pass on, but it wasn't documented. The first time she was clinically dead for 38 minutes. And her story is a fascinating one, and she is really a beautiful soul, just pure light. Amazing person. So I'm hopefully going to interview her maybe tomorrow or the day after, and then share that with everybody, because the basic thing from her is there's absolutely nothing to fear. I mean, there's absolutely nothing to fear.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, go ahead, keep going. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's, her story is amazing, and she gets into a lot of details. And it did definitely change her life. And there's a lot of wild things now, like she just blows out computer after computer because energetically she's different now.
Yes, yes, the same thing happens to me. I swear to you. Wow. So, wow, that's amazing. Yes, you have to definitely interview her, because I mean, last time I mentioned even, okay, thoughts, emotions, intent, belief, and perception. That's cellular energy for the light body itself. Okay? Whether she knows it or not, she already reached her light body. Okay? That's why she's still technically, physically here, even though she died. Technically. Okay? So before she even died, she was already living out of the heart space. When you live out of the heart space, meaning you are universal, meaning you don't just think about you and your family and only your community. No, you think of every little thing as a whole, as a collective. That's when you live in the fourth dimension, believe it or not. That's why she would get premonitions and this and that, just like I did, and they were always correct. And after a while, they started to believe me. And one time, I mean, another suicide bomber, okay, there was a small little explosion. We usually stop to investigate, and I said, "Sir, I don't think we should be here," because the sergeant wasn't there anymore. So now it was the sir, because the sergeant had to go home. So it was a lieutenant, my platoon leader this time. I said, "Sir, I don't think we should get here. I think we should come back in about 3 or 4 minutes." And all of a sudden, he's like, "You know what? I believe you this time." So yes, everybody mounts up, and as soon as we closed the door, a suicide bomber blew himself up, which was right behind my vehicle. Okay, but no one got hurt of ours, but it hurt a lot of kids and a lot of Iraqi police and innocent people. But the point is I guarantee you, she whether she's listening or not, she can relate to some of the stuff that I'm saying. How she gets this. It's more than just a gut feeling. It's more. It's almost like she's literally psychic, but not psychic. It's beyond that. And yes, just like she's mentioned, that's what I'm trying to say. And to bring the balance, how you also bring in all the things we need to have to our awareness, so that we can decide better about what's our next step. Well,
Exactly. And I'm gonna let another caller come in. That's It's a pleasure always to talk to you, and thank you for sharing so much, my brother.
Yep, have a great one, guys, and much love, much light. And don't forget, like the roommate said, there's nothing to worry about. There really isn't. Right? Just look into your own life. Sorry, guys. Have a good one. Love, one love. Bye.
Namaste. So, yeah, interesting stuff, and I can't wait to share this story with you with our beloved host here, because she really is amazing. And I've met, quite a few people that are amazing like this, that are just, they so get it. They love every single day. And when you have spent time on the other side and come back, you know what's going to happen. So you don't have any fear, because what she experienced on the other side was nothing but pure love. And I'll get into all the details when we do the interview. But it really goes along with what I've found from pretty much everybody that has these experiences. It's really interesting and enlightening, because there's nothing to fear. There's no hellfire and damnation. Now, Buddha had said that hell only exists in the minds of those that believe in it. And that gets into what Natsaya was trying to say there as well. It's a matter of the energy we hold and what we expect. And think about your dreams, because on the other side, it's more like the dream world. It is the dream world. And so what is in your mind is most likely to manifest. So it should be basically, you want to hold on to as much love and peace and positive thoughts as possible. So we don't want to program in negative things. We don't want to, embrace negative thoughts, feelings, and conditioning. think about what you're watching. You know, if you're watching things like, and I'm guilty of it in my past, you know, things like Hellraiser or, you know, from the old horror flicks, you know, things like Hostel, you know, the movie Hostel, all those violent, bloody movies, they're going to program your consciousness, your subconsciousness, and it's going to lower your vibration. It's going to lower where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and it's going to not be anything that's going to be beneficial to you in any way, shape, or form. You know, as I see Tara Jones, she is awesome in the chat room there. Always doing such a beautiful job of maintaining the peace and just always, as she says, no judgment. No judgment. That's hard to do when we get frustrated with things, but it's the sign of spiritual maturity when we don't judge. And it is also the sign of a soul that is honestly one of peace and love. It's a beautiful thing. And we do have an open line now. If anybody wants to give a call in, 614-400-5835. 614-400-5835. I know Adam was trying to give a call in before, and each time he's called, it's been busy because there's basically just the one line that I grab, and I can only talk to one person at a time. I don't want to make it into a jumbled mess. So anybody that wants to give a call in, you know, feel free to give a call in and share. But it's really, the most important thing we could do is just basically reprogram ourselves away from all the negative programming that we've been basically bombarded with, you know, since childbirth, and program ourselves in a positive way. Positive statements, you know, make yourself up a mantra, use it daily. Hello, Adam. You are on the air.
Yeah, now, that one video that you were saying with the Earth Changes map with the U.S. Navy, I didn't know that remote viewers in the U.S. Navy created that. I know that U.S. Navy played a role in that because when I was in Tampa 2 years ago, I forgot the name of the guy, but he told me that Matthew Scallon map that one guy had when I was at his house. I only been at that apartment like twice when I was in Tampa in 2016. I tried to buy the map online. I called that company on that website, but to me, I think they're not in service, the phone line and the business or whatever. But he told me and two other people that he saw a map, I guess, similar to that when he was in the U.S. Navy. So I know that map with the earth changes is very real. So I know that, you know, you're doing homework to try to get out of your area into a safer location. And then this one lady I know, she's in South Carolina, she was thinking about going to Ozarks. And I was telling her, it's like, well, you can live with me in Western PA. And I was talking to her tonight before I tried, when I was trying to get on your call. And she was telling me that, you know, to use my intuition to know where the best place, you know, to be. But where you were telling me about that area, yeah, that's a good place to be too. Because I know the Ozarks, I even knew that years ago that in one road, they have like 12 banks in one road. And I know they have underground installations there too. And then the one guy I know that works for NORAD at U.S. Space Command, I even asked him about Denver International Airport, and he's not denying what I was asking him with those questions. But he created his own artificial intelligence program, and he told me by the year 2020, it's going to hit the fan. But my own opinion, I think it's going to hit the fan before 2020. But I think you made a video in the past that people were using Google Translate, and they were putting certain words in there, and Google Translate was saying, you know, about Christ returning and all that. And I tried doing that myself on Google Translate, but I think Google patched that AI because they're using neural networks on the artificial intelligence for Google Translate. But I asked him that same question. He created his own AI, and it came with the same result that it's going to hit the fan in 2020. But I think it's before that anyway. So honestly, the past few days, I've already been thinking about Bug Mountain where I'm at because I'm in the central New Jersey area. So, those two choices I got is what you were telling me and, Western PA because I have a friend over there. And that's pretty much it. But Florida, I could tell that's not safe because the highest hill is only like 500 feet. So if there was a tsunami that were to hit, I think that tsunami will go right over the whole panhandle. That's just my opinion. But, I think certain areas where there's mountains, it'll be a safer area. And in New York City and all that, because I know the Central Intelligence Agency, they declassified years ago, I think it was 2013, about a book called Adam and Eve. And they talked about a pole shift. And they were saying how a tsunami went from the west coast to the east coast, and it went right over the whole country. But I don't know if that was an over-exaggeration because that book was created like probably in the 1950s or something like that. And then when I showed somebody that book, he read it, and he freaked out, and that guy, he couldn't sleep that night and all that. But I don't think the wave will go over the whole country, but I could see the Canary Islands. I've been monitoring that for quite some time anyway. And you were saying something about, was it Hawaii? And one of those mountains, if they go, it could trigger tsunami. Because I know the Jason Society, they had plans for sending off nukes off the Pacific coast. And you already know about the tsunami bomb because I know they were testing that in New Zealand. But I didn't know about that part that they were going to do that in Japan during World War II. That's new news to me. And I did look up that the Russians have that underwater nuclear drone. I don't know, you were talking about it. I even looked that up myself before you even made that video. There was another person on YouTube. There was videos in late August. People were getting visions and dreams about a tsunami hitting the East Coast. And I remember before Hurricane Sandy happened, I had a dream that the water went over the beachfront where I was living at in my old town. And that did happen. And some people, one guy I was talking to in Boston, in one of his videos, I talked on the phone before, but he was saying that wave was like a mile high going like Mach 1. And some people were, there was other people that had visions where they were in Manhattan, and they were like, oh, that wave is not a big deal. And that wave went right over the skyscrapers of New York City and all that. So it could be the Canary Islands, it could be a nuclear drone, it could be an asteroid hitting the Atlantic Ocean, or it could be an earthquake that was set off in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge in the Atlantic Ocean. So there's a lot of scenarios in all that, and that also plays a role in the Gulf of Mexico because they have that something called the Monaco well or something like that. They say that was like the Devil's Well, and that played a role in that the Gulf of Mexico when they had that oil spill and all that oil was leaking out and they were spraying correction over it. And I had this other guy in the military, he told me that they had to redo the landing strip for the pilots to land at the airport in Florida. I don't know, I forgot if he told me it was Tampa, but they had to redo the markings for that, when the pilot lands on that runway and all that. Because when that happened, it actually moved it or something like that. And then I knew somebody that was going to St. Peter's Pete a few months ago, and every time he goes from that bridge from Tampa to St. Pete, he kept getting sick. So what I'm starting to think, I was telling him that I think it's hydrogen sulfate or either methane is leaking from the water is coming up, and it's making people sick because there's been a lot of die-offs of fish in St. Petersburg. And overall, not just in the U.S. but around the world, there's been a high amounts of level of parts per billion of methane in the air. And there was this one blog that I follow sometimes on and off, but to me it's too in that negativity side. And I don't know if that guy has some kind of hobby with it, because I told him, you could just develop a program that could just automate all that stuff for you. And he's saying that when hydrogen sulfate and methane mix, it causes anything that's made out of carbon to catch on fire and explode, like homes, cars. And then when people get exposed to hydrogen sulfate because it smells like rotten eggs, they either pass out, die, or they start hallucinating and they start stripping naked and start acting crazy or whatever. And the police either shoot them or tase them or arrest them or whatever. And that's been going on for years. And there's a book on Amazon called Fever Rising that talks about the hydrogen sulfate methane threat. So, and then that, when you were saying in one of your videos about the grand solar minimum in the ice age, and you were saying that got out behind New Mexico, yeah, that was true. I know what you're saying, that you're right on that stuff too, because I had this one retired nurse, she was telling me about the same stuff and all that. I gotta send her your videos to her so she can watch it and all that. And that's pretty much all I got to say, pretty much. So.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all that. There's quite a bit of things that we covered right there.
Yeah. But I don't really feel safe living where I'm at. I'm like 2 miles from, the Raritan Bay here. I'm in central New Jersey. And I'd rather be, in the Appalachian Mountains or in Western PA, and that's about it, man. Because there's too much information out there that shows that these areas, these people that live on the coast, on the west and the east coast, and the Gulf of Mexico, or anywhere in particular, is not safe. And I've been looking at those Earth Changes maps for years. But I had this one guy in Tampa, he had the whole Matthew Gordon Skelly's map on the wall in the dining room. And the U.S. Navy guy was telling me that, yeah, I saw a map similar to that in the Navy. I'm like, damn, what he saw there, I don't know. So it's not all made up. It's not fear porn. It's not all that stuff, man. There's truth to all that stuff. And that's pretty much it, man. So.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Adam, and it's true, and there's more sources. Have you guys? Gosh, I'm always gonna forget her name. She's always exposing the chemtrails and stuff, and I will think about it by the time I get my statement out. But there's like 1,100 military bases the U.S. has around the world that are on coastlines that they're moving. It's like.
So they're moving inland, I guess, right?
Yeah, they're getting them off the coastlines.
Oh, okay.
So it definitely shows us something's up. I mean, the CDC is moving from Atlanta to Colorado, and so because they know what's coming. They know what's coming. There's a reason why they're moving a lot of assets to Colorado. Colorado is supposed to be the next.
Colorado is like the Switzerland of America. It's a mile-high city surrounded by mountains. And they got underground installation. When asked that NORAD U.S. Space Command guy about Denver, Colorado, the Denver airport, he didn't deny it at all, man. So, yeah, there's truth to that. It's not all fear-mongering and conspiracy. So.
Oh, it's Deborah Tavares. If you guys haven't listened to Deborah Tavares, check out some of her stuff. And I think her website is, or her YouTube is it Stop the Madness or Stop the Madness?
StopTheCrime.net.
Stop the Crime. You got it.
She's right on the money.
She is.
She's totally 100% right on the money.
Yep.
Smart meters and Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. And they purposely set off those fires in California with that Rothschild owned PNC&G utility company using Boeing airliners with lasers. And I think China could be involved in that, with those lasers and rogue black ops creating those fires and using illegal drones and smart meters and cell phone towers to trigger, and lasers trigger all these fires in California. They can redo the building code and rebuild a city or a town under Agenda 21, Agenda 23 building codes, pretty much, so they can get government grants. So they want people to live like a sardine can, all together in an apartment complex with the 5G and the smart meter and It's just a kill grid.
Exactly.
And that's the end of that, man. So, and they want to roll this out not just in California, but all over the world and all over the United States and all that, in Texas and even the Carolinas, all over, man. So that stuff ain't cool, man. That's a mess, man. So there was a Michigan politician that said recently, he was talking about the dangers of 5G on YouTube. I don't know if you caught a glimpse of that. It came out, I think it was yesterday. Because 5G, it destroys plants, animals. It just destroys the DNA, and it causes cancer. And it's also an active denial system. So it is a directed energy system that's targeted against people that are PIs and the whole gang stalking and all that stuff too. That plays a role in, people saying, oh, it's 2020, but in Manhattan and New York City, when people land from LaGuardia, they're already feeling like all nauseous and all sick because they're already doing the deployment of 5G before the 2020 date. And AT&T and was it Ericsson, Verizon, because they were testing all that 5G stuff, the research and development stuff for civilian use in my area of New Jersey, Piscataway, New Jersey, Baskin Ridge, I think it was Middletown where AT&T is located. But see, 5G is nothing new. It's been around since 1989. And the military's been using it in the Middle East. All they did is they're retrofitting it for civilian use, but on their military use, it has EMF shielding. But they're redoing it to the civilian population with no EMF shielding at all. So, people are going to come down with cancer, all kinds of immune diseases and all that stuff. What, for self-driving cars? What, you can't have cameras and the computer and video graphics card to figure it out? What, you got to have it set up all through a 5G network? That to me is like, if they have a backdoor, they could just override that car and then run your car into a wall or off a cliff. So, because I know in Pittsburgh, AT&T invested like $110 million from 2015 to 2017 in infrastructure for LTE, and they even mentioned 5G infrastructure. They didn't even really say deploy, but to create the infrastructure for 5G. But to me, I think they're freaking lying. And then the firefighters in California, they say that they're getting sick. I guess putting out a fire near these cell phone towers and all that. And these cell phone people that put these set up these cell phone towers, when they go on the towers, they're coming down with brain cancer and all that. So yeah, man, that's a mess, man. That's all I got to say about that.
And those smart meters on the house too. That's another issue.
Yeah, smart meter probably has a remote back door, and they could cause that to trigger a house on fire, pretty much. You're literally attaching a cell phone tower to your home. And I had a friend that was living under probably maybe a dozen smart meters, 5, 8, or a dozen smart. He was living right under it in his bedroom because he was living in an apartment complex. So he had set up the organizer in his room to reflect all that bad EMF toxic pollution going into his room. Like it was screwing him all up and all that.
Exactly.
And then when he's in Pittsburgh, if he takes the bus to drive around, the lights, they go out. So I guess Pittsburgh maybe they already set up that smart grid system. And Uber is doing the self-driving cars in Pittsburgh. So that self-driving stuff, I think that's a multi-layer application. Because if you're going to have people pass out on hydrosulfate, methane, they can't drive a car and they pass out and they get hit on a head-on collision. Or if you want to take somebody that's a dissonant out, I don't know. There's more to that whole self-driving car stuff. Because that's been around since the 1980s with, I think it was Carnegie Mellon and other universities. They put money into that and the military too with grants. So that's been around for quite some time. They're just trying to tweak it here and there. Like you were saying in your vids, like this technology, none of this stuff is new. Even weather warfare, I think that's been around for a lot longer than 100 years. That's probably been around for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Who the hell knows? I don't think that stuff is, none of this stuff is new under the sun. They're just reverse engineering stuff that's already been around. That's about it.
All right, well, I appreciate the call. Lots of good stuff covered there.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, take it easy.
I'm glad I finally got on. So.
Yeah, I am too. Well, thanks for sharing, my brother.
No problem.
All right, take care. So that was Adam in New Jersey, and maybe he'll be heading to Western PA, or maybe he'll be heading to the upstate in South Carolina. But he doesn't feel safe in Jersey, and I could see it. I feel it. I feel like it's time to get off the coast. He brought up 2020, and I've gotten from multiple sources that 2020 is a big ramp up date. I could see that. I do feel it as well. And when we look at it, we look at those Deagle numbers and the Agenda 21 map. By the time we get to 2025, the population of the U.S. is supposed to be 69.5% reduced. That's a big reduction. And what is it that causes that? What exactly is it? We heard the numbers. I think they give us clues. And they were talking, Deborah Tavares, actually, she was talking about the Russian subs that are drones that carry 100 megaton nuclear devices and that could hit us. And she gave the example of one hitting the Atlantic coast, off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic, would kill 100 million Americans. And so, I mean, if you put one out on the Pacific coast and it killed basically about the same number, then you got your Agenda 21 map and your Deagle numbers pretty much right there, just right there with that act. And that could do it right there. It does feel like it's time to get off the coasts. They're trying to drive us off the coast. Nowhere is safe. Yes, I agree, Stack. Though I can tell you that this might not be safe either, but it feels dramatically healthier. It felt so unhealthy down there and so oppressive. The energy, the air, the vibration, what I was feeling even going on with the earth itself through my feet, because this morning I got up and went out and did some Qigong barefoot on the mountain, and it felt way calmer here. I didn't feel that same almost frenetic, almost like a panicked, laboring energy that I felt down in Florida. It felt much more like it used to feel in other places when I used to do Qigong, whether it was in Ohio or South Carolina or Connecticut, going back 12 years. It didn't feel like it's felt down in Florida recently. So it feels way healthier, it feels way better. I feel way better. My lungs feel way better. My sinuses feel way better. It's a big difference. And then I really do think that we're bombarded with way too much EMF when we're in the bigger cities. It's really so obvious. Yeah, there's comments in there about the moods of people changing. I see it too, and I see it too, and I see it with the different areas, and everybody was feeling stressed down in Florida. And I think a lot of it could be due to red tide, or maybe some of it's premonitions. People are feeling things. You know, like Adam was sharing how he feels uneasy being in Jersey now. And some areas, you know, you could just tell they just don't feel safe and it's stressing people out. Whereas, you know, here, you know, people are going along, they're moving so slow and they seem happy, they're not rushed. You know, and basically where I am here, it's, yeah, we're basically on the Tennessee, North Carolina border in the southern Appalachians. So that's the area that I'm choosing to weather the storm in. And I know, you know, if I was in Colorado, yeah, or New Mexico, maybe I'd be at 6,000 or 7,000 feet instead of 3,500. But I'm going to bank on 3,500 being enough because here there's going to be 5 inches of rain that you could pretty much count on, and it stayed pretty stable, you know. And there's so much plant life here and so much wild plant life that, you know, it's just a matter of getting educated on what you could actually eat. Water's going to be a huge problem out west. You know, it's scary, the thought of not having enough water. It's definitely going to be a problem. We do have an open line, guys, 614-400-5835, 614-400-5835. A couple other things that Adam touched on. We talked about the Canary Islands, La Palma. You know, the scary stuff there for sure. That could create a mega tsunami as well. He was talking about the Helena slump in Hawaii, which could cause a Pacific tsunami. But, you know, the bigger danger with tsunamis might actually be man-made. It really might be man-made, whether it's an act of war or some sort of covert action of terrorism. You know, there's just danger in that. Definitely danger. I've seen estimates as far as like what La Palma would look like, basically between 300 and 1,000 feet as far as, you know, the idea of a tsunami, depending on which source you're listening to. How far inland would that go? I think actually, if you're looking at Florida, really, most of the peninsula, you know, if you go into the middle part of the state, you might get up to 150 feet. So how far in is the 300-foot wave going to go? I don't know. I mean, I've watched different videos on it, but not seen anything definitive. And then, of course, in the West Coast, the same sort of thing. Hard to say exactly what would happen. And then how about the pole flip with crustal displacement? You know, if we do have a big crustal displacement event, what type of waves will we get then? Now, that's a big wild card. Because as we talked about, there are seashells and things, there's fossils on the tops of mountains. So either those mountains, you know, were at some point in the extreme distant past in a much lower lying area and have been just consistently pushed up, or waves washed over them. So, you know, it's a scary thought to think of a scenario like the movie 2012. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us?
Hey, dude, this is Josh.
Hey, Josh, how you doing tonight?
Good, brother. How are you doing?
Doing good. So what's on your mind tonight, Josh?
I'm in Michigan and seeing all this crazy stuff going on in the skies, and I want to go down. And I'm going down, I think, Friday. It's when we're scheduling. I'm bringing Mama Bear with me. She got a camper. We got a camper. We're all going to go down. So I was like, in this crazy thing, the Appalachians, do you think is a really good spot? Seems like you're going there, so.
Yeah, it feels like it's time to get situated. Maybe it's even a little bit on the late side. You know, depending on how much food you want to have growing on your own. But yeah, it definitely does feel like it's time to get to a safe spot and to start you know, creating your own little place of solitude and safety.
Right? Yeah, we've all been seeing these things. Like up in Michigan, the skies are talking like you talk. Like they're dark and black and it's messed up. It looks weird. Like in the thunderstorms that they're rolling through. And then like the times when I was a child, you know, it's been very low. Very rumbling. Very minister, and it just doesn't feel right from the times, you know.
Right. So where are you going now?
I'm going to Georgia, up by the mountains, in the Appalachian Mountains, northeast or northwest, I guess, side. I want to try to find a good place for me and my mama bear. And I want to hang out with you too, so since you're going to the Appalachians.
Well, it's beautiful country, absolutely gorgeous, very peaceful. Good spot. Definitely a good spot.
Yeah, I think like it's an old Victorian town, and it's close to the Appalachian Mountains, so if we need to, you know, some kind of crazy thing happens, we can go right up to the mountains. So we all got, me and my mom bear, we both got, you know, houses on wheels. So it's all good.
Well, that's good. It sounds like you got a plan then.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks to you, man. Been thinking about this for a minute anyway, but you just supported it. And thank you for being so cool and just loving everybody and trying to tell them what's up all around the world. That's so beautiful, man. You are beyond beautiful because you just try to help everybody out. I love it. I love you. I just want to, for once on your show, maybe throw love on you, dude, because you're so cool about this whole situation.
Well, I appreciate that, brother, and I appreciate your call and sharing. And I wish you well in your travels and your journeys. Stay safe there.
You, me too. I hope I get to meet you. That'd be kind of awesome for me. Maybe we can hook up on the mountains.
Sounds good, my friend. Well, you have a great night, and thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for having me on. Love you, bro.
Thank you. Much love, brother. Take care.
Peace out.
So he's got his plan for him and his mama bear, and they're going to head down to the Georgia mountains, and they got their RVs, and they're all set. It's talk about RVs. There's tons of RVs down here, and yeah, it's not a bad way to go in many ways. And it's going to all depend on what we face in each situation. And yeah, I mean, I was watching the heliplots, and very, very disconcerting with the activity over at La Palma. Lots and lots of activity over there. And as I shared, I mean, honestly, I really am kind of dreading going back and spending 1 or 2 days in Florida packing up. Really kind of dreading it. And I'll be very glad to be settled in up here permanently. It just feels so much more peaceful. But everybody's got to find their right spot. And many people are just staying where they are. You know, they're just bugging in. And, you know, in many cases, it's just, you know, it's what they have to do. It's so interesting to see everybody's different plans. And we do have an open line again, guys, 614-400-5835, 614-400-5835. I think we have people passing around some Irish whiskey in the chat room. It's end time partying in the chat room with some Irish whiskey. So, yeah, everybody's got to formulate their own plan, but definitely things are really picking up. And as I was saying, the heliplots looked very, very scary when I was looking at them with La Palma, because it's just been very, very active and very busy. And then we saw basically an earthquake off the coast of Portugal today. And anytime you see them over in that area, especially off the southern part of Spain and off of northern Africa, and it's just something to watch. It always makes me just take a deep breath, That's a scary one. So Evelyn was saying she didn't think it was possible because of gravity to have a 300-foot tidal wave. I know I've actually heard multiple sources talk about tidal waves in the past being higher than that. But we never know. I mean, there's definitely contradictory info that gets put out there. And as we said before, who do you know, who do you really trust? Do you trust the USGS? Do you trust most of the scientists that are on the payrolls of, say, NASA or NOAA? There's not a lot out there that you could totally trust. And, even some in our own truther communities as well could be disinfo agents. You have to listen to your gut instincts, and I do think for most people, their guts will speak and, let you know when it's time to get your butt moving. But we don't always act on that. And that's part of the problem. Sometimes our left brain will say, you can't do this. You can't just, sell your house or you have a lease, you can't break your lease and go move somewhere else, or you don't have the money to go do this, or you can't leave your job, or you can't leave your family or your friends. Everybody's going to think you're crazy. You'll get so many people saying things like that. And it's going to be up to you, I mean, if you feel like, you don't want to be embarrassed, and look like a fool by listening to your gut instincts when it says it's time to move, or that you could be in danger, or you could listen to that inner voice and maybe feel a little more peace. Because I know I'm definitely feeling more peace on the inside. And so, why not give a call in? And we do have a caller coming in. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
My name is Stephen Fikes.
Hi, Stephen. And what would you like to talk about tonight?
We go into this tropical storm, Gordon.
Right. Yeah, and are you over there in Alabama or Mississippi or in that area?
Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
There's a little bit of wind. It's not really anything. I'm 45. I've been through pretty much every hurricane on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah. So, hopefully it won't be anything too major.
No, hopefully no power loss. Hopefully. What I wanted to talk to you about is I've been watching y'all's show for a little while. Y'all believe that we go through cycles, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
I believe that we go through cycles too, and I've been studying something called
much about our history unless what we can study through the ice, through people that win the wars and stuff like that. They rewrite the history books, and we don't know our real history except what y'all can study through the ice or whatever, I just wanted to bring that up, see what maybe you thought about that.
No, I agree totally. And there was one of the later videos, not too long ago, maybe about 4 or 5 videos ago, that I was like trying to touch on that fact, because it's so true. Revisionist history. When you think about it, how do we really even know anything like, the Roman Empire even existed? When we really look at it, because you're trusting in all these academics, and ultimately you're trusting in, the ones that send them out there in the first place and follow the money. It'll end up trailing you back to the rich, banking cabal, these same bloodlines that run everything. So you really have to kind of question everything. And how do we know anything that we haven't really seen ourselves?
Yes, I understand completely with you. Like I said, I'm glad that y'all got the ice data, that proves that these things have happened, like the Viking ages and all those ages that come up, fall, like how China is probably getting all that land in Africa, to farm it. They knew that they was going to flood and probably be fertile again, How did they know,
Exactly. It's interesting to watch, and they always give us hints through movies. And one of the movies that I made a video on a long time ago was Dark City. Did you ever see Dark City?
No, I never saw it. I saw bits and pieces of it, little things, but I never watched the whole thing. Wish I would have done it.
Yeah, the concept is, that ultimately what these people are living on, they don't even question the fact that it's always dark out until finally the hero just says to people, he just kind of like realizes because of his dreams that he's seen a bright blue sky and seen the sun in the sky. So then, he's bringing it up to the inspector, and he says, "Don't you remember seeing, a bright,
Beach?
Yeah, the Shell Beach thing, right?"
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, they didn't even question the fact that the sun never came up anymore, and it turns out the whole time they're living on this alien spaceship, this complete thing that's, it's not even a planet. So, like I've said to some of the flat earthers, that's kind of like the only way I could see the Earth being flat is if it is in reality just a spaceship, and we're being controlled by these aliens.
Yeah, I believe the Earth's flat, but I don't know. I don't know if it's round Earth or flat Earth. We've been lied to so much. What do we? Can't believe that NASA says they even straight up tell you they lie. It's CGI. So, but I don't know. I've never personally been up there. I don't think anybody's been up there. But who knows? Like I said, I don't think the ball Earth or the flat Earth people need to divide. I think everybody needs to unite behind the truth and stand with the truth, whatever the truth might be. They know what the truth is. And in their cosmic way, they have to tell us, what they're going to do. And it's up to us. If we don't do that about it, we give consent to it, I don't consent to what they've been doing to us. But, we need millions of us to stand up and say, hey, look, we know you've been building these underground bases. We know you've been storing food up in them. We know we get prepared for the grand solar minimum, But,
Exactly.
That's survive the way we can, Like I said, I've been growing for 3 years now. I just started like 3 years ago. I quit my job, quit everything, and just said, I'm going to start gardening. That's what I've been doing.
Well, and where are you?
I'm in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Biloxi, okay.
Yeah. Like I said, it's challenging. I'm just growing herbs now, like ants, parsley, stuff. Sweet potatoes, I'm growing sweet potatoes right now. I tried to grow corn a couple times, but it didn't do too good for me. But like I said, people think that you could just take up gardening and just run with it, but it's not that easy. You learn trial by error, It's very hard, Especially when you live in an apartment complex and you got a bunch of pots that I move all around,
Right.
If I had a nice yard, it would be nice, but you got to work with what's given to you,
Yeah, well, see, you're doing that. You're working with what you got, which is a great thing. That's really all we could do is work within the realm of what we're able to do. And you're doing something, so that's a positive for sure.
Like I said, whatever's coming, I just try to be prepared for it. You know, like I said, the strong will survive.
Exactly.
The strong will, and the people with the knowledge. And like I said, you have the knowledge of it. Y'all have the knowledge. I've been watching y'all's channel for a little while. You know, y'all make a lot of sense. It's a lot of sense. You know, as long as a lot of truth was all get on the same page, they're against us. You know, they're trying to wipe us out. They poison our air, poison our food, poison our water. You know, but they tell us they're doing these things. You know, so I think it's their cosmic rule. They have to tell us. You know.
Right. Yeah, they do, and it seems like it. And you could always kind of tell what the next shoe to drop is by what they put out there. So, that movie on Netflix, How It Ends, and the whole thing is that there's, some sort of tsunami on the West Coast, and then, they give hints that it's military, and we see signs that it's military, and then we get this, reports that, the U.S. has tried to made a tsunami bomb way back, back in World War II, and that the Russians have a nuclear version of it, and then the U.S. probably does too. Maybe China does too. So they're just letting us know ahead of time. And
this is what we're going to do to y'all. Just let y'all know.
Exactly.
All the governments, they work all together about keeping their people down. You know, all of them work together. They're probably all related some kind of way. You know what I mean? All world leaders probably some kind of way. Who knows? I know something's just not right. You know. And I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that something's just not right. Like I said, your channel does a great service to letting people know, hey, we can study and prove that there's been these things that happened in the past with the climate going crazy. I believe what it is they have to tell us the opposite. They say it's getting hot when actually it's going to be getting cold. They know it's going to get cold. They know we're going to go through an ice age or something of that nature, you know. There's a lot of places going to go off grid, not going to be able to grow food, you know. Like I said, they've been planning this for years. You know, they've been building them dumb underground bases for a long time. They stockpile. I think they're planning to ride out the storm. Let the rest of the people have some time to freeze and starve and do whatever else.
Yeah, exactly. And
I don't want to keep you up on your show, man. I just wanted to call and say, man, I really like the show and I think you're doing a great service.
Well, thank you so much for the call. I do appreciate it. Thank you for sharing, and good to see somebody's doing what they can. And as you said, you've been doing this for 3 years now, gardening, so you're getting ready. And hopefully this hurricane won't be anything. It'll be a non-event. Hopefully it doesn't just turn into a one of those rain events we've seen where they get stalled. Hopefully it moves through quick and it doesn't leave a lot of damage.
Cool, you be safe too, man, okay?
Yeah, you too. Take care, brother.
All right, man. Bye.
So caller from Biloxi, Mississippi, and hopefully this hurricane is nothing and it doesn't stall out and just rolls through. We have time probably for one more caller. Anybody want to give a call in? 614-400-5835. And definitely good topics to touch on. Predictive programming, they do it all the time. They let us know what's coming, and then we just have to wait for it. But at the same time, we don't want to manifest it, so we don't want to dwell on it so much either. And part of it probably is to have us help manifest it. It's so wild how this works with them. Have you guys seen that video on, I think it's 50 things the Simpsons show has predicted that have actually come true? It's kind of crazy. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who do we have with us now?
Hello, Mike. This is Tana.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you for asking. Yeah, I am a newbie to all of this, so I'm excited to be a part of it, and I have a lot of things to to add, but also to listen to, and that's what we do.
Definitely.
We all have things to offer and things to. It's all about giving and receiving. So, what I wanted to say, if I could, is to just let everybody know that it's all going to be okay, no matter what horrendous, outcroppings that come from anything. We're really just all immortal, and we're all a part of this. We're all here now for a reason. We all wanted to be a part of this. We all wanted to add our energy into it. And we all wanted to help transform this place into the most beautiful place that we could ever imagine. And that's why we're here.
And that's a beautiful thought. And, it's true. I mean, I do think that, a lot of us come here, I think, at this time frame just because we want to make a difference. We just feel drawn in, like we want to change something into a more positive version of what's possible. And so,
Absolutely.
definitely, I agree with what you're saying there. And where are you located?
I'm also in New Jersey, as was your other caller. I did get rid of a beach house a few years ago. And sometimes it was a place that I loved to go. Was going there since I was a child. Didn't want to do it, but sometimes the universe forces experiences into your life that it just happens to be that you have to get rid of it. But I sold the place that I loved for a place of love, and I'm opening a yoga studio, meditation studio, a healing center with Reiki, Thai Vedic massage, and so forth.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's just time. Sometimes we come to the planet knowing who we are, and then we go through these periods where deliberately you have to kind of fit in, and you have to go through the same processes that everybody else does. It's like a sink or swim thing. Well, you can't just live in your little world and live on your little planet, and not kind of connect with what's happening and having a job and so forth. So, we do that, but sometimes, in that kind of phase of finding out who you are and still not fitting in, having to fit in, you have to, because you have to be able to reach the people that you're going to need to reach at some point. So, you kind of go through those periods of, all right, well, now I got to, go to school, get a job, da-da-da-da-da, and you do. And when you do, you realize that this is still not me. So how do you rectify in your mind, being a spiritual entity or a spiritual soul that has come here to heal without kind of the resources to reach the people? You have to learn sometimes to get up into a room and speak, in front of the masses, public speaking. That's all school stuff and school-related stuff. And sometimes we hate doing all that. As spiritual entities, but you have to be able to, really demarcate each kind of type of person that you're trying to reach, your own pitfalls and downfalls, and go through all of that. And in that process, you end up realizing this really isn't me. So your whole world collapses. But, and then that's the good thing. I mean, everybody looks at, oh, my world collapsed, I got a divorce, this happened, that happened, lawsuits, whatever it is. But let the tower fall, because when the tower falls, that's where the beauty comes. You just have to sit and stew in that dust for a little while, and then you rebuild your tower, and you get to see what your real purpose is, to blend all of those things together and to help heal a planet. And that's why we're here.
That's a beautiful thing. It's a changing of the ages, and so, as you said, it's an opportunity to go from a system that really hasn't been the best system for the planet or for anything on the planet, really, and redo it into a new system. But it's going to take kind of wiping the slate clean.
Yeah. So embrace, instead, most people are so quick to rebuild the image, rebuild who they think they are, when who you really are is just love. It's who you are at the core and your essence. So when you take the understandings of now how this place works, and you can amalgamate it into the essence of who you are, that's when the real work begins. And that's what we're all here to do and discover. And everyone's worlds are falling apart right now because our matrix is falling apart. Our we're going through all these glitches. So we can't have anything to hold on to. We can't hold on to current day news. We can't hold on to what the weather's going to be tomorrow. We can't hold on to anything. So you can't go back, but yet you can't go forward. Like your yesterday collapsed, and you can't go forward either. It's forcing you to live in the now, which is where all the magic occurs and happens, right here.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I think about that word matrix. I mean, think about it. Before that movie, how many of us use that word often?
No, it's true. But that's what we do too. I mean, part of this is blending, all of the experiences, whether they be through music or the arts or books or even, stories, folklore, rhymes when you were a child, all of those things, they start when you start having your awakening. And it doesn't have to be, not just necessarily, whether it's Democrat, Republican, and so forth. It's once you get something that you can claim isn't truth anymore, say, you know what, Tide doesn't wash my clothes better than any other brand. Boom, you've just blown up, what the masses say is truth. So once you can implode whatever that truth, the external truth that everybody else is believing, and say, you know what, I used to think that, but why am I saying that? All of a sudden, you're allowed now to open up and take little bits and remnants of past experiences, or what somebody said to you 3 years ago, and blend it with what somebody just said yesterday, and it's like another epiphany, and that's our awakening.
And that's beautiful. And I want to say goodnight to our people on Revolutionary Radio, and say goodnight to everybody there right now.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for having me.
And I just wanted to thank you for the call as well. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for being a new part of the family and sharing with us.
I feel welcome and blessed. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and that was a very, very positive message. And the positive messages are what we really need. We could see all the negativity. We could see all the fear and the destruction going on right now. But ultimately, the outcome is we're going to end up in a much better place with a much better matrix of sorts.
Let's rewrite a new story, everyone.
Exactly. So it's a beautiful thing in the end.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Namaste, my dear sister.
Namaste, Michael. Ciao.
Ciao. And that was a wonderful call. And that was a great call to finish tonight's show on from one of our new family members. So thank you guys so much for joining once again. And always a pleasure, everyone. Thank you always for your support and being part of this family. And do always make sure you thumbs up on the videos and share with as many as possible so we can wake up as many to what's going on and get them prepared as well. You never know when you could save a life with just simply clicking share, and you just don't know how the dominoes fall like that. And it's just one of those little things that might take a second and really might actually have a big impact on somebody's life. So thank you guys so much. Namaste, my friends. God bless. And I will see you all again soon. Take care.